do a bit more on protectionism here. You know, I've got a lot of arguments on my video about protectionism, particularly from Data Love Forever or Data Lore Forever, about how this is going to throw people out of jobs and we need all these subsidies to save the economy and such and such and such and such. But I'd like to talk about a great book on this subject called Economic Sophisms or Sophisms by Frederick Bastiat. And he totally destroys this myth of protectionism by pointing out a couple of things. One is, what is the object of life or of a good standard of living? Simply put, we produce to consume. The goal is the consumption, not the production. We don't consume, so we will be able to produce. And this is proven by asking a simple question. If you could produce infinitely, let's take it all the way out to its logical conclusion. If you could produce infinitely and consume nothing, would you prefer that? Or if you could produce nothing and consume infinitely, which state of life would be sustainable? Well, of course, producing nothing and consuming infinitely would be far preferable and logically sustainable. If we produced infinitely and consumed nothing, we'd obviously die. But of course, we do have to produce to consume. The only point is that the consuming is what we strive for, not the producing. So back when man was in a very rudimentary state of existence and we didn't have the division of labor like we do now, and we weren't so well integrated into societies as we are now, man produced everything that he consumed. Production and consumption was the same thing. But eventually he began to realize that some people were better at other things than others, and so he began to trade what he produced so he can consume the production of others. And so if a man were a particularly good vegetable farmer, he would produce a bunch of vegetables and dedicate almost all of his production to vegetables, and then he would trade his vegetables for things he was not good at producing. This made life easier on him. But another way of looking at that is it gave him less of a job. He had less reason to produce. He could produce a lot more. He could be more fully employed if he were to produce all of his clothing, all of his food, all of his woodwork, all of his blacksmithing. If he were to raise his own cattle, raise his own horses, if he were to build his own house, create his own pots and pans, he would be fully employed. But he'd be highly miserable. So he trades to make things easier. See, the goal of life is not full employment. We should do the things that are most productive. Economic success is not found in full employment. Matter of fact, we could be very happy if we could consume and not work as much. So, employment is only a means to an end. We shouldn't artificially inflate the means. We should concentrate on the end. So man has less of a job when he learns to trade with others who do things more efficiently. But that does not mean simply that somebody is thrown out of a job to be relegated to the life of a sluggard. Man, once he's taken care of his necessities, turns to the leisure things of life, and he'll begin to let his mind open up to new possibilities. And the things that he will desire then and seek to fulfill then will create other jobs and other opportunities for people that may have been thrown out of work because of the efficiencies in other pursuits. So then those people will be swept back up into the job market to fulfill the needs that come along when certain needs are already well satisfied. And so saying that somebody will be permanently thrown out of a job is like saying every human want has already been fulfilled. Every possible human desire has already been fulfilled. As long as humans seek more consumption and seek to do other things, there will always be a place for that person to fit back into the job market. The thing is, it's the job, it's the responsibility of the laborer to find a place to fit in where they can meet human desires. It's not the job of society to provide the laborer the job. The laborer must contribute to society in the way that the society desires. So they have to go find jobs that people want to be done. And so that's where the difficulty comes when people do things more efficient and certain people are thrown out of jobs. They don't want to go out and find what society does want from them. So they should concentrate on doing that rather than complaining that we're now able to consume more things for cheaper and have a better standard of living.